What if every Premier League club got their greatest magician back? Could Eden Hazard weave Chelsea back to the top? Would King Eric Cantona save United from impending doom? And how would Luis Suarez fit into Liverpool's all-star attack? The Magic Men are locked into their clubs for 10 full seasons, starting at the age they joined in real life. And at the end of the decade, we'll see who's won the most trophies, who's hoovered up the most individual awards, and last and definitely least, who's been stirring the pot down in the Championship more often than not. The Magicians are back for 10 spellbinding years. Let's get it started, shall we? The sudden influx of magic in England's top flight caused utter chaos across season 1. Liverpool lost just once to January, turning our first title chase into a one-horse race. Fulham and Leeds were early surprises, whilst Manchester United once again lurked in the wrong half of the table. But our first real flash of sorcery came in the Carabao Cup final. Manchester City were heavy favourites at Wembley, taking on a Fulham team searching for the club's first major honour in its history. And 3-0 down by half-time, it looked like that search would continue, until the oldest magician of the lot decided to set up an all-timer Wembley comeback. Dimitar Berbatov. If as cool as a cucumber had a face, it would be the Bulgarians. 15 league goals at 31 years old ensured Fulham would get one more season in the Prem back in 2013. Berba's magic was truly one of a kind. Fulham's 4-3 win wasn't the only curveball of the season either, as the FA Cup final featured Aston Villa and Brentford after shock semi-wins over Chelsea and United. And in another 4-3 spectacle, it would be the youngest magician of the day to set Villa on their way.
Just struck it, it's come back to Richards again, and Grealish!
Jack Grealish, Villa's future captain. It didn't matter if it was a mazy run, a curler from 30 yards or a pinpoint cross. Villa's very own led them back to relevance before earning a then record fee to Manchester City. Midland's magic at its very best. Grealish would actually end up winning Playmaker of the Year, but the magician with the most goals came from our Season 1 title winners. Liverpool's front line battered everyone. And although Salah swept the awards, the match winners came from their Uruguayan great.
Here's Suarez. Driven in brilliantly!
Luis Suarez, chaotic magic unlike anything the Prem had ever seen. Nutmegs, tight turns, exquisite first touches and goals from all angles. If only he'd kept his mouth shut when it mattered the most. Now, unfortunately, there would be no English winners in Europe in Season 1. And at the bottom of the table, Prem mainstays Wolves, Brighton and Bournemouth all dropped down to the Championship after dreadful seasons. Would their Magic Men ever return to the top flight again? Suarez started as he left off, opening Season 2 with 2 in the Community Shield and another in an FA Cup final win over Arsenal. But when it comes to the league, Season 2 was all about just one team. As after a trophyless year, Manchester City reloaded with a range of signings from Jared Bowen all the way to a returning Leroy Sané. But all eyes were on their wonder kid signing, Konstantinos Karetsas. The Greek prodigy would finish as the Citizens' top assister, as City won both the title and the Carabao Cup. Karetsas had proved to be the perfect apprentice to City's greatest magician of all time, and the man literally known as El Mago.
Oh, and Silva not picked up at all, only after taking several touches.
Brilliant, son.
David Silva. Over 400 games, 4 Premier League titles and 7 domestic cups. Silva was technical brilliance and elite level IQ rolled up into one of the most magical playmakers of the Premier League era. He was so good, he even got himself a statue to boot. But as good as him and Karetsas were, neither of them topped our assist chart, as that honour and Playmaker of the Year came from Russia with love.
Kanchelskis. The man's on fire at the moment.
Andrei Kanchelskis. His magic was one of simplicity. Knock it beyond a defender, turn on the boosters and bury it home across the keeper. 15 league goals as a traditional out-and-out winger in 96 saw Everton jump from 14th to 6th. Merseyside's very own Molotov cocktail. Down in the Championship, Brighton flew straight back thanks to the returning loanee Evan Ferguson. But we'll have to wait just a touch longer to witness the Seagulls' magic man in top flight, as the real drama in England's second tier came at Wembley in a playoff final. The nerves led to penalties, with the decider coming from Wolves' powerhouse wizard on the wing.
Down to the feet of Adama Traore. Striking it! Oh, what a strike!
Adama Traore. His magic may have come from his muscle, but his electrifying blend of raw Herculean strength and explosive pace saw him become one of the league's most feared, dazzling and unpredictable wingers during Wolves' Nuno era. So the Cherries stayed down, and by the end of the season, Fulham would be joining them. From trophy winners to relegated in 12 months. At least Berber would stick around for the drop this time. So on to season 3 then. City looks strong, Villa is still pushing, the North London clubs are back in Europe, and United have sacked yet another manager. Which magician will put on a show next? The two Titans opened our third year with a drab Community Shield, with Liverpool edging it on penalties. But you'll be delighted to know that was the only final either side would reach all season, as there was some magic in the FA Cup, as Wolves and Leeds beat Arsenal and United in the semis, followed by the newly promoted Wolves lifting their first trophy since 1960 after a man-of-the-match performance from Adama. Sorry Leeds fans, gonna have to wait just a little bit longer to see your magic man in action. United and Arsenal did meet in a final, the Carabao Cup, with Arsenal's second half blitz claiming victory, and by season's end, their new look 11 went one better. Unbeaten at home all season, their non-flying Dutchman delivered a First League title since 2004.
And how well they played that night. Picking out Bergkamp, and Bergkamp with a chance, and he's taken it!
Dennis Bergkamp, pure poetry in motion. A brilliant footballing brain, a mesmerising first touch, Hawkeye vision and the ability to score from nothing. He made everyone around him better, even the great Thierry Henry. Not many had magic quite like Dennis. But the real story of the season came in the form of a great escape. Sunderland had hit February on a measly 11 points, but by the final day sat just 1 point off safety. Their two rivals, Norwich and West Ham, played out a nervy 0-0 draw to send the Canaries down, and as the news filtered into the Stadium of Light, Sunderland and Brentford were locked at 2-2 with 7 minutes to play. Enter the baller from Benin.
Sessegnon. Wickham's got the chance. He's done it!
Stefan Sessegnon. Quick touches, faster drops to the shoulder and the ability to either pick out a pass or fire home from range. His magic would help Sunderland avoid relegation in 2013. So West Ham and their set-piece Sorcerer were heading down, whilst Bournemouth erased last year's pain with 100 points in the Championship to head back up. Fulham's Berbatov had taken the golden boot, but the eye-catcher was the Cherry Scottish Livewire.
Fraser, if he can find him, he can find Fraser. Fraser to the edge of the box, right footed from Ryan Fraser!
Ryan Fraser. During his time on the South Coast, his pace, dribbling and playmaking skills made him Bournemouth's most potent threat. In 2019, he racked up 14 assists, second only to Chelsea's Belgian wizard. Able to conjure moments of brilliance, he was vital to Bournemouth's early years back in the Prem. So he closed the year with the balance shifting again in English football. Big clubs are wobbling, Forest are back in Europe, and the trapdoor near the bottom is looking busier than ever. Still no European triumphs for the Prem though, but with 11 magicians still to reveal, Season 4 promised fireworks. Our fiercest title race yet would be the defining story of season number 4. City held the edge as Haaland feasted on Silva and Karetzas' service.
In Haaland, 1-0.
But they would hit a Geordie speed bump midway through the season. Battling Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final, Wembley would bear witness to some magpie magic.
It's Beardsley going forward, and he's scored. Oh, lovely, cool play by Peter Beardsley.
Peter Beardsley, returning for his second stint at his boyhood club, his sublime close control, precise passing and uncanny vision allowed Andy Cole, Les Ferdinand and even Alan Shearer to flourish beyond their abilities. City would shrug off the loss, finishing the season with an FA Cup win over Chelsea. But there would be no title winner in Manchester as the league season came to a head. By the final day, City's race was done, as Aston Villa now sat a point behind Spurs. Villa looked transformed, Grealish wide to facilitate last season's Player of the Year Simone Pafundi, whereas Spurs were all flair and va-va-voom. Villa would win their game 2-0, but Spurs edged Leeds 1-0 to claim their first league crown since 1961. And that wasn't all the Lily-Whites would be celebrating come the end of the season, as a return to the Europa League final against Juve saw yet another 1-0 European win for Tottenham. The winner this time coming from their French showman on the wing.
It comes for Ginola. Yes!
David Ginola, joining Spurs fresh off 2 years as one of Newcastle's best entertainers. Winning the League Cup in '99, the season would end with Ginola earning both the Players' Player and Player of the Year, the first person to win the award with a club outside of the top 4. Down south, Bournemouth and Fraser became our unfortunate first 2-time relegated club, with Burnley falling down too. But in the Championship itself, West Ham did as predicted. 97 points, top spot, and a talismanic season from their key player.
Here comes Payet.
Dimitri Payet. His stay in East London was brief but utterly sensational, single-handedly elevating the Hammers during the 15-16 season with vision, flair and physics-defying set pieces. Audacious magic at its very best. So we closed season 4 with Spurs on top and huge changes up north as Slot saw the sack. Silva's Apprentice became the master with a 191 million move to Barca, and Manchester United's disaster class of a decade got even worse.
You do your job.
Will their master magician ever get the chance to show his hand? Now midway through the decade, it was time for our silkiest and most chaotic magicians to take centre stage. Kanchelskis would deliver another Playmaker of the Year, forming an unreal partnership with Benjamin Sesko to fire Everton to a decade best fourth. Across the park, Captain Luis Suarez led handball to a Europa League win and a season-long title charge with a treble on the cards, until a Belgian blizzard rolled in from West London. Fresh off a Carabao Cup win over Villa, Chelsea surged during the business end of the season, and with a little help from their final opponents, the title was decided by some Belgian black magic.
Hazard's on his way here. It's Eden Hazard! 8 in a row!
Eden Hazard, an unstoppable dribbler with a highlight reel filled with iconic solo goals, incredible close control and the consistency to boot. He won 2 league titles with Chelsea whilst also claiming the Players' Player and Player of the Year award in 2015. And I'm sorry Reds fans, but your troubles weren't over just yet. Wembley was the venue, an FA Cup final the occasion. Enter Crystal Palace's Congolese conjurer.
Push through to Balassi!
Yannick Bolasie, one of the most unique and unpredictable magicians in this entire showcase. An entertainer who embodied street football with audacious skills like his 360 flick. Along with Zaha, he earned cult status at Palace with moments of magic few others could ever replicate. But for all the twists and turns of Hazard and Bolasie, in terms of individual performances, Season 5 belonged to just one man. United finished 9th, still outside of Europe and still empty-handed. But up top, they had a showman so great, he managed to finally end Erling Haaland's run of winning consecutive Golden Boots and Player of the Seasons.
Cantona!
Eric Cantona, with his upturned collar and what the kids would call aura, lifting the class of 92 around him with moments of pure genius. He led United to their first title win in 26 years, mesmerising both opposition and the press in the process.
It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
But contrasting fortunes at the other end would see Forest and Sessegnon Sunderland fall, joining Burnley, Bournemouth and Fulham down below. That leaves 5 magicians still to unveil, 2 now in the second tier. Which one will pull a rabbit out of the hat and shock us in Season 6? Season 6 would be the start of 5 insane years in and out of the Prem. Haaland reclaimed the golden boot, fed by the majestic El Mago.
Have it.
Chelsea tumbled from champions to 10th as Maresca went from title winner to the unemployment line. In fact, it would be Chelsea's West London rivals who had a season to cheer. The Carabao Cup pitted Villa against Brentford as the Bees completed a 5-year transformation of their squad, capped off by their king on the wing.
From Bomo, beautiful penalty!
Bryan Mbeumo, thrilling runs, deadly finishing and consistency to boot. Joining the club as a raw, pacey winger before transforming into a lethal finisher capable of creating magical moments when Brentford needed it the most. 20 goals earned him a move to United, but his status as a Bees legend is unquestioned. Villa didn't sulk after that loss, as they grabbed their first European trophy since 1982, overcoming Sevilla with a Greatest special in the Europa League. And back home, we had our wildest final day yet. 5 teams could win the league. Spurs would be without old man Ginola due to injury. Liverpool were looking sharp, and King Eric had United as close to the top as they had been so far. And then there was Brighton. The Seagulls had soared all season and felt confident ahead of the final day after claiming their first ever trophy, thanks to their wizard warrior from Japan.
Wow, brilliant touch from Mitoma, and a brilliant finish.
Kaoru Mitoma, the only Magic man to still play at their club, coming out of nowhere to help transform Brighton into a genuine top-tier side. His ability to weave past defenders with exquisite close control and cool finishing led Brighton to their first ever season with European football. Unfortunately, there would be no maiden league title for Brighton this time. Everyone would win on the final day, but United wouldn't claim the title as Spurs pipped them on goal difference. Spurs took it on 75 points, the joint lowest for a title in Premier League history. And there was even a chance at a North London double, as Spurs hit the FA Cup final as heavy favourites versus Championship toppers Nottingham Forest. But from the stands, all Ginola could do was watch Forest's Dutch dynamo finally have his say.
Roy, brilliant goal!
Brian Roy, earning the title of Forest's best magician of the Prem era due to his stellar 94-95 season, combining with Stan Collymore and using his Dutch-inspired dribbling flair and creativity to help Forest finish an incredible third. Fulham and Bournemouth joined Forest in returning to the Prem, whilst Burnley's mystery magician remained stuck below. We also had Leeds' wonder kid waiting in the wings, so with 4 years left and a Champions League drought to fix, I think it's time we kicked things into gear. Season 7 and 8 flipped the script. The old heads either faded away or made one last push, whilst the young guns turned into master magicians. Berbatov, 38, managed just 2 starts as Fulham's long-awaited return lasted just a single season. Brentford and Mbeumo survived on the final day, then capped it all off with a sensational win in the Conference League. Brighton would do the reverse. Fresh from European glory the season prior, they pinched the FA Cup this season with an injury time winner over Liverpool. And at the top, a retiring 37-year-old Ginola was now more cheerleader than player. He watched on as his Spurs felt Everton breathing down their necks, with City lurking after a Carabao Cup victory and key signing of Lamine Yamal. But what came next was quite possibly the shock of the decade so far. The Toffees, powered by their Eastern European duo, claimed a first league title since 1987.
I am flabbergasted.
And if that wasn't sweet enough, we finally had a winner in the Champions League. And it just had to be them, didn't it? United, 12th in the league, faced Real Madrid in the final. King Eric scored first, buried the opening pen in the resulting shootout, Militao missed his, and somehow United lifted their first trophy of the decade.
This is football heritage.
Further down the table, Leeds' crown jewel finally sparkled. Hazard may have taken Players' Player and Player of the Season at 5th place Chelsea, but Playmaker of the Year went to Leeds Academy's finest.
Kewell is here, they're opening up for him, they're allowing him the space for the shot. What a fantastic goal from Harry Kewell.
Harry Kewell, the Australian's magic lay in wonder goals and elite dribbling. A Star Academy graduate during Leeds' best years in England and Europe. His reputation took a hit after moving to Liverpool, but few can argue with the legacy the Wizard of Oz left at Elland Road. So with all of Season 7's excitement, Season 8 was always going to have an uphill battle matching it. But it tried its best. West Ham was suddenly docked 9 points for being naughty and parked a 35-year-old Payet in the under-21s. Matoma and Adama both broke their legs, yet Brighton and Wolves still managed incredible wins in Europe. Newcastle then repeated their Season 4 trick. Beardsley bagged 2 past City in the Carabao Cup final. He then scored at Wembley again at season's end, but a 32-year-old Suarez would win the FA Cup for Liverpool.
You ruined it.
City would then settle a relatively drama-free league, with Haaland's title-winning haul earning Player of the Season, edging out Playmaker of the Year, Eden Hazard. But the Belgian most definitely had the last laugh, as Chelsea stormed Athens to beat PSG and lift the Champions League, making it back-to-back seasons with a Premier League winner in Europe's top competition. At the other end, Balassi shockingly dropped to the Championship, and Fraser's Bournemouth suffered a 3rd relegation. But finally, Burnley came up with the goods down in the Championship. They needed the playoffs, but it was no problem for their Sorcerer Supreme.
And it drops to Blake!
Robbie Blake, the little magician who helped the Clarets gain promotion in 2009. Able to turn it on when it counted, the journeyman would go on to score a sensational volley in a 1-0 win over Champions United that cemented his status as Burnley's greatest magician of the Premier League era. So with that, all 20 magicians are finally revealed. Silva leads the silverware race after City's latest title, with Suarez right behind. For individual glory, it's a straight shootout. Hazard versus Cantona. Will it be our contenders or a dark horse that cast the decade's final spell? And if you thought our last 2 years would be a straight shootout between Suarez and Silva, you'd have thought wrong, as their only finals in Season 9 were the Europa League and the FA Cup. Both lost them late, as Newcastle and Chelsea showed out. Newcastle's first Euro win since 1969 followed yet another Carabao Cup victory after more Beardsley magic. And yet again, I'm sorry Reds fans, because Season 9 got a heck of a lot worse for you. Everton, now under Mikel Arteta's haram ball, with 35-year-old Kanchelskis still flying down the right, pulled off a smash and grab win in the Champions League final to outdo their miracle of Season 7. Say it with me, Everton are your European champions.
Sorry, what?
Meanwhile, City finished 4th, giving Playmaker of the Year David Silva one more crack at the big one. But Season 9's title winner came from one of the more underwhelming magicians of the decade. Villa and Arsenal went to the wire. Prime Jack Grealish against an ageing Dennis Bergkamp in Conte's 3-4-3. In the end, Dennis the Menace took his 2nd title of the decade, as Villa confirmed their status as this generation's nearly men. Unfortunately, Burnley won't be in our final season, just 18 points seeing them drop down, followed by a 12-point deduction which would doom them to League One football as our final year closed. I am so sorry, Claret fans. Fraser's Bournemouth bounced back, Balassi's Palace didn't. A 40-year-old Berbatov finally retired, making Fulham's promotion miss moot. And hilariously, they would reach the decade's last Carabao Cup without their Bulgarian wizard. But Wolves closed their 10 years in style, Adama scoring twice for their 3rd overall trophy. The Golden Boot race, however, was a much closer contest, with the winner coming from our last season's title winner. United finally did it, walking the league to win their first and our last title on offer, with a decade-low 16 goals handing Eric Cantona the last individual honour. And King Eric wasn't done there, as he would have a direct say in both Silva's and Suarez's battle for that trophy chase. Florian Wirtz's PSG were too much for City in the Champions League final, so if Suarez's Reds could beat Cantona's United in the Europa final, the Uruguayan could at least match Silva's trophy haul. Which magician had one last trick up their sleeve? Okay, so the decade has come to a close finally, and before I reveal who won that final and who's won the most trophies and the most individual awards, let's put those relegation races out of their misery first, shall we? As coming in 3rd is Dimitar Berbatov and Fulham. They were relegated twice, promoted just once. Berber actually spent 6 seasons in the Championship. Then in second, we have Ryan Fraser and Bournemouth. 5 seasons down there, even a performing Fraser couldn't haul them up more often and prevent 3 relegations in total. And in first is Robbie Blake and Burnley. Only 2 Premier League relegations, but 5 years in the Championship, and thanks to that final season deduction, a drop to League One for 3 relegations in total. Now, the trophy collectors. In third, it is a 4-way tie. Ginola, Adama, Mitoma, and Cantona. 3 pieces apiece, albeit Ginola does have 2 titles to his name. And yes, that is correct. Cantona finished the decade with 2 magical goals in that Europa League final, meaning Suarez is stuck in second, being joined by Peter Beardsley and Eden Hazard. 4 trophies apiece as Newcastle became obsessed with that Carabao Cup. So it means in first, we have got El Mago, David Silva. Fittingly finishes top with 5 trophies. And lastly, who was our greatest showman with the most individual awards? In third, after a spectacular 10 years, is Everton's Andre Kanchelskis. 2 Playmaker of the Year awards and 84 assists across a decade where Everton won both the Premier League and Champions League. And then in second is Eden Hazard. 1 Playmaker of the Year plus both Players Player and Player of the Year in Season 7. And in first, the King. He matched Hazard's Players Player and Player of the Year double in Season 5, added 2 golden boots and racked up 126 league goals and 36 assists as United finally got back to the top right at the death. So that's that. If you've made it this far, you are an absolute gem. Make sure you do smash that subscribe button to not miss what's next. But if you do want to stick around right now, how about you watch this video right here where I return every club's greatest goal machine. I've heard that Ronaldo bloke's pretty good, you know.